everybody, welcome to my channel. I am sitting in my bedroom right now, but here in a second I'm going to take you down to the kitchen and show you our farmhouse. I call it a modern farmhouse kitchen remodel we did last summer, and it has officially, hard to believe, officially been a year since we had our dark cherry stained cabinets painted white. And I thought it would be really interesting and helpful to a lot of you guys who have been thinking about painting your kitchen cabinets or having them painted. Kind of what I learned in the process, how they're holding up so far, and our experience overall. They were builder grade, very, very dark cabinets, and we wanted everything just to be light and white and bright. So I'm going to take you downstairs and show you what the kitchen looks like 1 year later, any little nicks and pings and dings that have happened to them over the course of the last year, how we have covered those up, and how well they are holding up. So if you want to see that, then stay tuned. Okay, so here's the kitchen 1 year later. It's a little cloudy outside, so hopefully the lighting is bright enough. But first, I was going to tell you and remind you, if you didn't see the original video, maybe I didn't even mention it in that video. The paint that we used is the Benjamin Moore Stix primer. It's supposed to have really good adhesion, and it's supposed to work on pretty much any surface, especially things like cabinets that may have a little bit of a gloss to them. It works on vinyl and plastic, glossy paint, lots of different materials. And so that was what the paint still recommended, and that's what the painter recommended. So we used the Benjamin Moore Stix primer first. Then after that, for paint, we used Benjamin Moore Advanced paint in Chantilly lace. I wanted the truest, brightest white they had, and that's what they recommended. We chose the Advanced paint over maybe an oil base, which I know oil base is really durable, but they said the Advanced was less likely to yellow over time versus the oil base, so that's why we went with Advanced. And it's supposed to be soap and water cleanup, no abrasive cleansers, no Mr. Clean erasers or anything like that. I do have one area to show you where I had to use a Mr. Clean eraser to get something off, and I'll show you kind of what that did to the finish. But otherwise, you're just supposed to use soap and water, so no Clorox wipes or anything like that. One thing I was worried about with painting the cabinets, and obviously it's only a year in, so how is this gonna look 5 years, 10 years down the road? I don't know. But one area I was particularly worried about was any area that had high heat or steam. Like these cabinets right here that are right by the stovetop, when you're cooking, a lot of steam will come up, and I was really worried about these. But there has been no bubbling, no flaking. There is a little chip right there, but that's just something that we have done with a cup or something. But the paint itself is holding up really, really well, especially in these kind of high heat, high moisture areas. There's been absolutely no issue with that, so that's exciting. There are a couple places I'm going to show you and how we were able to kind of fix the mistake. So obviously you're going to knock into things sometimes with a pan or, you know, a vacuum cleaner. Things are going to happen. Dings and dents and little things are going to happen. So this was the first one that we had happen, and I don't know what happened. I don't know who did it, but it went all the way to, like, all through all the layers of paint and all the way down to the primer to the original cabinet finish. And I didn't do the best job touching it up. I'm glad it's kind of on this interior corner because you would never really see it. I covered it up with the same amount of paint that all the cabinets have, but there's just a little bit of a texture difference here. So maybe somebody that was like a cabinet person would have been able to do a better job. Maybe they would have like filled that a little bit with some wood filler and maybe made it smoother. I don't know. But that's where I have touched that up. So it covered well. Like, you can't see the color of the cabinet, the original color, but you can see a little bit of a texture difference here. Then over here I had this drawer. This is the utensil drawer. It's where all the knives and things go. And I don't know if somebody like nicked in here with a knife, but there was a little chunk out of the paint in this little kind of crevice right there. So I don't know if you can even see it, but I took a little very, very fine grit sandpaper, learning from the other mistake that I just showed you, right? There was a texture difference. I took a very fine grit sandpaper and kind of smoothed out the edges a little bit, and then I primed that area and painted over that area, and I don't think you can even see it. So that worked out nicely. And then this cabinet right here is probably the most used cabinet almost of anything. It's where the trash can is, and so there's a little, you probably can't even see it. It's very minimal. Just a few little nicks here and there. So at some point, if they continue to get worse, I will probably re-roll this entire top piece, just to try to avoid like touching up this, and maybe making it more noticeable. I think in some cases, depending on the size of what you're trying to touch up, I think it might be better and just to re-roll it. Little situations, little tiny things, or things that are in little nooks and crannies, I think touching up is fine. Overall though, just in any painting situation really, if you're touching up a lot of little areas, it's gonna be more noticeable than just re-rolling the whole area. So that is my plan if anything significant happens, which I did have a little bit of a thing happen here, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. Let me see if I can get the right angle. Yeah, you can kind of see right there, if you see there's a little bit of a sheen difference. That is what happens when you use a Mr. Cleaner eraser on this paint. The dishwasher guy had come to fix the dishwasher, and he was beating around things, and he scratched the cabinet front with one of his tools, and it wasn't like dirt that could wash off, it was an actual scratch. So I figured a Mr. Clean eraser would get it off, which it did, but it did take off a little bit of the sheen, and you really can only see it when you're like standing here like right at this angle. As soon as you kind of come around, you don't see it. So I haven't done anything with it, but in this situation for sure, I would not try to touch that up. I would roll the whole thing. So you really have to kind of base each touch up on where it's located, how big the area is, how many of them are there, and that's when you really decide, am I gonna be able to touch up, or am I gonna have to re-roll? So I think it really helps make sure you have extra primer, extra paint, and the same roller or brush that you use to paint your cabinets for touch up. So that way you have very little variation in like texture differences from different rollers, or texture and paint color differences from different cans of primer, different cans of paint. You have as much of the original conditions as you can replicate is the best thing to do when you're trying to touch things up and repair. But we've had I've really been pleased with just a year in how everything has held up, and the minimal amount of things that have happened that we've been able to fix. And you know, I wanted to paint our cabinets for so long, but I was really just scared to do it because I thought they're not gonna hold up, it's gonna fall off. And like I said, it is only a year in, but this primer and this paint has really good reviews, and people have really had success with it, which is why we chose it. I feel like even though we're just a year in, it's kind of a somewhat accurate representation of how well it's gonna hold up, because it's already been heavily used, washed, things spilled on it, moisture, steam, heat, all of those conditions have already been very present in this room in the last year, and we've not really had any issues whatsoever. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the painted cabinets 1 year later update. If you haven't seen the original video where you see what the kitchen looked like completely before, and then the water damage we had, and then the after of everything being fixed and repaired and put together, definitely check that out. I will link that for you in the description box. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.